Good day everyone, I am Casada Lady May and I am going to explain and emphasize what are the issues concerning the law about Republic Act 11479, otherwise known as the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. What is terrorism? Terrorism is an unlawful use of force or violence against person or property to intimidate or coerce a government or its citizens to further certain political or social objectives. Law enforcement generally recognizes two types of terrorism, which is the domestic and international terrorism. On July 3, 2020, President Rodrigo Duterte signed into law Republic Act Number 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2021. The Anti-Terrorism Act repealed the Human Security Act of 2007, which was previously the governing law on acts of terrorism in the Philippines. The Anti-Terrorism Act took effect on July 22, 2020, 15 days after its complete publication in the Manila Bulletin on July 6, 2020. As of August 6, 2020, 25 petitions seeking to declare the Anti-Terrorism Act unconstitutional either partially or in its entirety have been filed with the Supreme Court of the Philippines. What exactly does this bill say? The Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 amends the Human Security Act of 2007. It expands the definition of terrorism to include acts intended to cause death or serious bodily injury to any person, extensive damage and destructions to a government facility, private property, or critical infrastructure. And when the purpose of those acts is to intimidate the general public, create an atmosphere message of fear, or seriously destabilize or destroy the fundamental political, economic, and social structures of the country. Those found guilty face life sentences without the chance of parole. The Act also criminalizes the threat, planning, training, facilitating of a proposal, and of inciting to terrorist activities by means of speeches, proclamations, writings, banners, and emblems. It is also subject suspects to surveillance, warrantless arrest, and detention for up to 24 days. In addition, it removes compensation for the suspect in the event of acquittal and boosts the Anti-Terrorism Council, the implementer of the law, whose members are appointed by the President. Way back in 2019, there are a lot of terrorist incidents. Terrorists continued to target civilians and security forces with IEDs and small arms, and the emergence of suicide bombing posed new challenges for Philippine security forces. One of the example of terrorist incidents during 2019 is an Indonesian couple carried out a complex suicide attack during Mass at the Holo Cathedral in Sulu on January 27, killing 23 people and wounding 102. Second is in Sultan Kudarat. The BIFF was implicated in IED attacks on civilian targets that wounded dozens, and a foiled IED attack at a Catholic chapel. Third is the two men, including the first Filipino implicated in a suicide bombing, carried out a complex suicide attack against military unit deployed to combat the ASG in Sulu on June 28, killing 8 and wounding at least 20 persons. Fourth, a woman conducted a suicide attack at the entrance to a military camp in Sulu on September 8. Fifth is the security forces thwarted an apparent suicide bombing plot in a November 5 firefight in Sulu, covering suicide vests from 2 FTFs killed in the encounter. Terrorist groups abducted Filipino Malaysian, Indonesian, and British victims. Last is two British citizens were kidnapped in Zamboanga del Sur on October 4 by armed men of the government later said were members of ASG. The victims were recovered on November 25 in Sulu following military operations in the area. So that is all the terrorist incidents during 2019. Battle of Marawi became the longest urban battle in the modern history of the Philippines. According to the Philippine government, the clashes began during an offensive in Marawi to capture Isnilon Hapilon, the leader of the ISIL-affiliated Abu Sayyaf group. After receiving reports that Hapilon was in the city, possibly to meet with the militants of the Maoti group. A deadly firefight erupted when Hapilon's forces opened fire on the combined army and police teams and called for the reinforcements from the Maoti group, an armed group that pledged allegiance to the Islamic State, which is believed to be responsible for the 2016 Davao City bombing, according to military